What Plato lacks above all, perhaps, is the Heraclitean sense of flux and change. He is too anxious to have the moving picture of this world become a fixed and still tableau. He loves order exclusively. Like any timid philosopher, he has been frightened by the democratic turbulence of Athens into an extreme neglect of individual values. He arranges men in classes like an etymologist classifying flies, and he is not averse to using priestly humbug to secure his ends. His state is static. It might easily become an old foggy society ruled by inflexible octogenarians, hostile to invention and jealous of change. It is mere science without art. It exalts order, so dear to the scientific mind, and quite neglects that liberty which is the soul of art. It worships the name of beauty, but exiles the artists who alone can make beauty or point it out. It is a Sparta or a Prussia, not an ideal state. And now that these unpleasant necessities are candidly written down, it remains to do willing homage to the power and profundity of Plato's conception. Essentially, he is rightist. He not. What this world needs is to be ruled by its wisest man. It is our business to adapt his thought to our own times and limitations. Today, we must take democracy for granted. We cannot limit the suffrage as Plato proposed, but we can put restrictions on the holding of office, and in this way secure that mixture of democracy and aristocracy which Plato seems to have in mind. We may accept without quarrel his contention that statesmen should be as specifically and thoroughly trained as physicians. We might establish departments of political science and administration in our universities, and when these departments have begun to function adequately, we might make men eligible for nomination to political office unless they were graduates of such political schools. We might even make every man eligible for an office who had been trained for it, and thereby elimination entirely that complex system of nominations in which the corruption of our democracy has its seat. Let the electorate choose any man who, properly trained and qualified, announces himself as a candidate. In this way, democratic choice would be immeasurably wider than now, when Tweedledum and Tweedledee stage their quadrennial show at the sham. Only one amendment would be required to make quite democratic this plan for the restriction of office to graduates in administrative technique, and that would be such equality of educational opportunity as would open to all men and women, irrespective of the means of their parents. The road to university training and political advancement. It would be very simple to have municipalities and counties and states offer scholarships to all graduates of grammar school, high school, and college who had shown a certain standard of ability and whose parents were financially unable to see them through the next stage of the educational process. That would be a democracy worthy of the name. Finally, it is only fair to add that Plato understands that his utopia does not quite fall within the practicable realm. He admits that he has described an ideal difficult of attainment. He answers that there is nevertheless a value in painting these pictures of our desire. Man's significance is that he can image a better world and will some part of it at least into reality. Man is an animal that makes utopias. We look before and after and pine for what is not, nor is it all without result. Many a dream has grown limbs and walked or grown wings and flown like the dream of Icarus, that man might fly. After all, even if we have but drawn a picture, it may serve as goal and model of our movement and behavior. When sufficient of us see the picture and follow its gleam, utopia will find its way upon the map. Meanwhile, in heaven there is laid up a pattern of such a city, and he who desires may behold it, and beholding govern himself accordingly. But where there really is or ever will be such a city on earth, He will act according to the laws of that city and no other. The good man will apply, even in the imperfect state, the perfect law. Nevertheless, with all these conceptions to doubt, the master was old enough to risk himself when a chance offered to realize his plan. In the years 387 BC, Plato received an invitation from Dionysius, ruler of the then flourishing and powerful Syracuse, capital of Sicily, to come and turn his kingdom into utopia. And the philosopher, thinking like, chuckled that it was easier to educate one man, even though a king, than a whole people, consented. But when Dionysius found that the plan required either that he should become a philosopher or cease to be a king, he balked, and the upshot was a bitter quarrel. Story has it that Plato was sold into slavery, to be rescued by his friend and pupil Aniceris, who, when Plato's Athenian followers wished to reimburse him for the ransom he had paid, refused, saying that they should not be the only one privileged to have philosophy. This, and if we may believe Diogenes Laertius, another similar experience may account for the disillusioned conservatism of Plato's work, The Laws. And yet, the closing years of his long life must have been fairly happy. His pupils had gone out in every direction, and their success had made him honored everywhere. He was at peace in his academy, walking from group to group of his students, and giving them problems and tasks on which they were to make research, and when he came to them again, give report and answer. La Rochefoucauld said that few know how to grow old. Plato knew. To learn like Solon Plato 47, and to teach like Socrates, to guide the eager young, and find the intellectual love of comrades. For his students loved him as he loved them. He was their friend, as well as their philosopher and guide. One of his pupils, facing that great abyss called marriage, invited the master to his wedding feast. Plato came, rich with his 80 years, and joined the merry makers gladly. But As the hours locked themselves away, the old philosopher retired into a quiet corner of the house and sat down on a chair to win a little sleep. In the morning, when the feast was over, the tired revelers came to wake him. They found that during the night, quietly and without ado, he had passed from a little sleep to an endless one, or Athens followed him to the grave. The section is over.